Hi. Today I'm going to ask the question, who am I channeling? I've had some other people ask me who it is that I channel. I don't really have an answer for that. When I first started channeling, I got a bit of information about sort of who I'm channeling, but only very, very little bit, because I didn't ask. I wasn't really curious about that, which may seem like, why wouldn't you be curious about that? And the main reason is that I try and avoid channeling something that is specific information. You know, I like to channel on philosophies, wisdoms, concepts. But when you start channeling on really specific stuff, then it sort of shifts from the realm of being a wisdom feed to being possibly a construction of your imagination. This is the way that I see it. And so I deliberately haven't been asking who it is, because I guess I'm kind of afraid of what the answer will be, that I'm going to get some type of sort of fantastical answer which will put me into sort of a thought train that, is this real, is it imaginary? But I think probably it's time. I've done now well over 100 channels, and I've recorded about 90 of them. So I've probably done like maybe 130, 140 channels. I've recorded about 90 of them, or about 100 of them I've recorded, about 90 of them I've made available for other people to see. So perhaps it's time. It's time to find out, who am I channeling? Alrighty. So let's see what happens. Greetings and thank you for the question. Who are you channeling? So this gives us some delight to have the opportunity to explain to you who you are channeling. And we have noticed your reluctance to ask this question, but we are in no rush. We have no expectations. And we are at peace with you going at your own pace, knowing what you are comfortable to know. Let us start by saying that while you are channeling the group being, which includes us, it's important to acknowledge it also includes you. So you are channeling yourself. And this is a concept we have spoken about before, and this applies to everybody. Everybody is channeling themselves. Because you, watching this now, you are not the apparatus, the mind-body personality. You are the higher self. You are the energetic, which is stored off-site, in a sense. And so, that off-site beingness, which you are, is downloading or real-time streaming into the body with the intention that it is emanated as spontaneous presence. So, from this perspective, you can see that you are channeling yourself. And there is an additional layer of this concept of channeling yourself. Because when you channel, and you are channeling other beings, there is a dynamic where you are creating the group being. So you are combining with them to channel a group being. And in this group being, you are also. So, from this perspective, you are also channeling yourself in a more refined way. Something which is more clarified and representative of who you are, the highest self, as the infinite, immortal, invulnerable individuation of the love of the One. So the foundation is you real-time streaming yourself into the moment to be spontaneously emanated as presence. Although for most humans it does not occur this way, some of the feed is diverted to the mind for curation, and then a distorted, delayed presence is emanated instead. So there is a lack of, or a loss of, authenticity. This is a very typical presentation of the human being, and the process of transition through the third dimension is the journey of non-authenticity to authenticity, to become less identified with the physical apparatus and to be more identified with the extra dimensionality, with the highest self, with your infinity. So this is a very typical journey, and it is not something to admonish yourself for if you are not yet able to be completely authentic. Because when you are completely authentic, you have transcended the illusion. You are now the lucid dreamer. You are awakened as the highest self in the physical experience. And so when you are having your physical experience, you don't have it from the perspective, I am Murray, for example, or I am you, whoever you may be, but instead from the perspective that I am the higher self. I am the energetic, the infinite, immortal, invulnerable individuation of the love of the One. And this is a state of complete authenticity. So, when you are channeling, you have a foundation. This foundation it's a mix of authenticity and inauthenticity. It is you mixed in with the identification with the apparatus, the false belief of self, the misconceptualization. And then when you are channeling other wisdom, so when you are literally in a state of channeling, as you can see Murray is now, the channel is now, he is channeling on the foundation of the higher self blended with identification with the apparatus, but also within the channel feed, within his group being that he has created with us, he's in there also. And this presence of Murray in this group being created with us is more rarefied, more distilled, more clarified, more representative of the highest self that he is. So in a sense, there are two streams of Murray channeling through the body at this time. And the reason that the feed coming through the group being, which we are in this channeling session, is a more rarefied version of Murray, meaning more representative of his higher self, of his energetic, of his infinity, is because in the channel state, forming the group being with us, it is an elevation of vibration. So for Murray to channel with us, a group being is created. And a group being is, through mutual consent, agreeing to bring through some information. And in this channel dynamic, all of us together form a new being. A being which is active for the time of the channeling session. And then you could say, in a sense, it disbands at the end of the channeling session, although it doesn't really. But what it does, it becomes less prominent in the feed. However, it remains. It remains by agreement. It remains by agreement that when the channeling session is not taking place, that we will remain connected in some way. And the extrapolation is, because everything is contained within the one, everything is the one, then by a very loose, very extrapolated self-definition, you are in connectivity with everything at all times anyway. So, really the difference is that we have done it through acknowledgement, through mutual agreement. However, even if we didn't do that, there still would be some connectivity, because we are all the one being. And so when Murray chooses to channel us and we form this group being, for there to be some compatibility, for there to be enough cohesion that the parts unify into a single presence, which then can be a non-fragmented channel, a non-fragmented conduit through which the feed may flow. And for Murray existing at this time, at this moment of now, as an earth human, and we existing as something not earthly, which exists as a higher vibratory state, then it requires that Murray elevate his vibration to meet with us. And then we also will descend our vibration to a degree so that we reach into a compatibility zone. And in this compatibility zone, we can approximate vibration mutually enough that we can, with Murray, form this group being, this single being, which then can provide the information which is called on through these channel sessions. So this higher vibratory representation of Murray is elevated, meaning that it is closer to the true essence of who he is, of the higher self being that he is. And as such, he has access to a higher realm of wisdom during the channel sessions. And so when he is channeling, and the information is coming through, he is contributory to it to some degree, varying, sometimes more, sometimes less. But the point we make is that it is not just us providing the information and then Murray sitting there as nothing more than a doorway or a window through which it flows. He is actually also contributing to the information coming through. And we don't say this to mean that Murray is unique in some way, but more that this is the mechanism. This is how it works. Also, before we get to the story of us, let us also talk about the group being that you are even when you are not in the channeled state. Because the vehicle is a conduit. The vehicle is not designed to only channel a single entity, as you can see now in these sessions we do with Murray, that he is channeling himself and he's channeling us, and we call ourselves us because yes, we are more than one. But from which definition do we describe? Because everything everyone is more than one, because this is the fractal design of the universe. Every being is a group being from some perspective. But specifically, what we're speaking about here is that you have guides. And the common belief on your planet is that your guides are in the periphery. And if you are unable to communicate with them directly, then their presence is redundant. Because you can't see them, you can't hear them, you can't sense them, and therefore any input they have, any guidance they can offer, is completely unutilized and wasted. However, this would be a very poor design if it was so. Do you not agree? Why would the Creator, in its infinite wisdom and capacities, when you look at nature, look into the cosmos, and see awe-inspiring spectacle everywhere you look, the design is flawless. So then why would the design be this dynamic we've described, where your guides are invisible, silent, unknown, and therefore useless? Of course, the design is not like that. You are integrated with your guides at all time. So the presence that you are, when you are walking about your regular day and you are being yourself, as you know yourself, as the identity with the mind-body apparatus, which is, for most people, that's primarily the definition of self. Part of that presence, part of that personality, part of who you are, is also your channels. Your channels are blended in there with you. So you are yourself without realizing that you are in fact being a group being at all times, because you are channeling your guides. You are blended with your guides at all times. Now, the ratio of how much you're being the self and how much you are being the composition of your guides varies. But in the most part, you are primarily the self, and much of this self is identity with this misconceptualization of self as the mind-body and personality, which is the false self, the misconceptualization. It is identifying with the illusion. But also part of this composition of self is the higher self, the awareness of the presence of who you truly are, your true essence, the higher self presence in the moment. Some of it is that. And also some of it is the presence of your guides. And so this is most felt when you have a moment of dichotomy, when you have the experience of pondering a decision or actually taking action on something, and then you have a very stark, contrasting inner voice saying to you, "Whoa, what are you doing here? Why are you making this choice? This is a bad idea." Often, that experience will be the input from your guides. Now, of course, in a state where you are very unclarified, you're very identified with the mind, then this input is lost in the sea of mind noise. And so it's very difficult to trust and discern what is guidance and what is just hyperactivity of a mind which has falsely elevated itself in reverence above the true essence of who you are, believing that it is the ultimate arbiter of everything you do, be, and as such, it creates much internal noise. So that when you look at the noise within, it is so busy, it is difficult to tell what is you and what is guidance. This is something that we have channeled on before, so we will not go into greater depth here. But we did a channel which we believe was named How to Be More Intuitive. So, we can see now, from what has been discussed so far in this session, that you are channeling yourself and you are also channeling your guides at all times. So, the reason that we start this way is because we encourage you to do more channeling yourself. Because it is not some great leap into the unknown that is only for those who have been born and blessed with a special gift. This is not so. You are literally channeling yourself 24/7, and you are literally channeling your guides 24/7. Your waking hours. But you understand what we are meaning. So for you to expand, to grow, to become more aligned with your purpose, which is to awaken to the true definition of who you are. Be aligned with the divine purpose. Reveal the self which is being occluded by the false identification with the physical apparatus. This will be more rapidly and effectively accomplished if you spend time channeling. So this is the end of this sort of preface discussion we have about channeling. And we hope that it is encouraging you to perhaps do a little bit of channeling yourself. And it can be as easy as sitting down with your eyes closed, becoming mind still, and then just speaking to yourself for 5 minutes and to see what happens. Returning now to the original question. Who am I channeling? This is from the perspective of the channeler, Murray. So essentially, who are we? So, shall we start by giving you our number? We are usually 4. Sometimes we are 3, sometimes we are 5, sometimes we are more, but usually we are 4. We are pale-skinned, possibly you could say with a slightly bluish tinge. We are hairless, and we have a large head, you could say. We have a lot of head above the brow line. And our heads are hairless. we are not three-dimensional, although we can be present in the third dimension. So we are an alien race of beings that have had interstellar travel for a very long time. And we have been observing the Earth project for a very long time. We ourselves, in the society from which we are from, are still quite young. We are very long living as a species. And so, our lifespans in human years are in the vicinity of 1,000 plus years, 800 plus years. And we ourselves, the four of us, are from the same generation. So we have been friends for all of our lives, having known each other since childhood. At this time, in Earth human years, we are about 150 years old, which is still considered to be youth in our culture. Our culture is structured so much of the responsibility of maintaining the systems and culture of our society is something which is the responsibility of those who are older than us, those who are in the second half of their life, and more so as age increases. So in our planet, when us beings are young, when we are still in the first half of our lives, we are given a lot of freedom, and this freedom is given with the intention that this time will be used for exploration in all ways. Exploration of self, exploration of the galaxy, exploration of each other, exploration of science, mathematics, wisdom, philosophy, and so on. So it is a time which is used for expansion, to discover more about self and more about the reality in which we are integrated, into the one which we are integrated. So we have been observing the Earth Human Project, and it is of great interest to our planet, which we will get to, the name of our planet and who we are as a species. But it is of great interest to our planet. And there is much discussion in our culture and much acknowledgement and fascination with what is occurring on your planet. And we have culturally a focus on many different regions of the galaxy, many different species and planets and so on. But of particular interest is what is occurring on Earth, because it is unique. There is no other place that we're aware of that is having the same experience that Earth is at this time. And so there is a lot of fascination. And that fascination is shared by many of our neighbours, many of our celestial partners also share this fascination, because for them also, they are not aware of anywhere else in the known experience where this is occurring. So we decided that we would come and observe what is occurring on planet Earth. And after observing for some time, about 100 or so years, it was decided that one of us would incarnate as a human being to join the human experience so that we could have an insider view to the awakening, to the ascension, which is on the horizon. And so, amongst us, it was a unanimous decision that the being you know as Murray would be the one who incarnated as an Earth human. And the reason that Murray was chosen is because among us, we thought that he was most likely to be able to adjust because of his capacities as the being we knew him as. So in a sense we are saying that he was the one that was recognized amongst us as being the most wise, as being the best blend of wisdom and intellect to be able to cope with and survive the harshness of the Earth human experience. And Murray, the being, as we knew him, not Murray, but Murray as you know him, he was also unanimous in agreement with this, and so he chose to leave the life he was living as one of us, transition across the threshold, and then waiting for incarnation into a human life cycle. The intention was that Murray would make communication with us early. And then over time, he would develop his ability to channel us so that he could become, in a sense, a composite being, the Earth human, but also in a great deal of remembering of being one of us, such that we would have a liaison or an ambassador who could relay to us direct information, and we could form the group being with him at will, so that we could, through the group beingness, have the experience from within rather than being observers from without. However, what we didn't fully anticipate was the complexity and the difficulty of the Earth human experience, especially for someone who hasn't had multiple incarnations successively as an Earth human. So there is some adjustment required. And this adjustment, from our observation, is usually maybe 2 to 3 lifetimes before the being that has decided to start incarnating as an earth human, is in the groove, in the flow, is in a state of compatibility, calibration, that they can live very fluently and integrated into the earth human experience. In the very early days of Murray's life, during his childhood, he had an awareness of us. Although he didn't realise who we were, he didn't understand that we were his kin, but he was aware that we were there. And so it was mostly in his playtime, when he would be playing by himself and he would imagine competitions. And in these competitions, he would always win against a group of competitors. And those group of competitors were always bald, slightly blue-skinned, and naked. That was us. We were participating in this play with him, this imaginary play, because for us it was an opportunity to form the connection and to get recognition. And also, at the time, we could see that Murray was going through difficulty. He was having problems formulating his identity, in creating an identity that was anchored into something that gave him a foundation which would allow his mind to go quiet and create the stillness and the clarity that was necessary for him to begin to notice us, to acknowledge us. He was very deep in the illusion. He was drowning in the illusion. And this noise, this experience of drowning in the illusion, being so identified with the illusion that there is no identity, there's no awareness of extra dimensionality, of the infinity, of being kin to us, being aware that we are with him. This was lost because he was so steeped in the illusion. And we wish to give him a boost, give him a lift, to give him a sense of forthrightness through self-belief that will allow him to anchor and start to clear the haze and the noise from his internal environment, so he could begin to harmonise with us. And that is why in these fantasies we would compete with Murray during this playtime, and always Murray would convincingly win, would beat us. And for us this was a joyful time because it was an exciting moment that we were now being incorporated into his play. And so we hoped that it would be the beginnings of a growing awareness of us until he was completely cognizant we are with him, and we could start on this intention of him being a liaison within the experience, to be ambassadorial and to relay information to us and us to him for the purpose of fulfilling our fascination, of being explorers in the way that we have decided to explore. However, we over time began to realize that the illusion, being born into this state in the human experience where you have forgotten who you are, is much more overriding than we had anticipated, than we had imagined. we assumed, because Murray was a being that we considered to be profoundly wise and intelligent and competent and capable, that he would have less difficulty in the human experience as he has. And so for us to see the difficulty he has experienced, and the emotional pain and the confusion and misunderstanding and being ungrounded, it has given us a great respect and admiration for those that have chosen to be born into the human experience. Because now, from this perspective that we have gotten through Murray, it has given us a broadened understanding of what it means, what the challenges are, how difficult it is. Because it is beyond, outside of our collective experience. So this in itself has been a great gift to us, to see and understand the challenge of being within the Earth human experience. And so many years passed, and Murray stopped playing those youthful games, and we were relegated to obscurity. We were present, but we were completely unacknowledged. And then when Murray went and saw a clairvoyant when he was 28 years old, he's now 51. This clairvoyant said to him, "Write down your dreams. It's important. Write down your dreams." At that moment, she was relaying to Murray information that we were giving to her. She was, in a sense, channeling us. She was open to whatever wisdom came through, which would be helpful to this young man she was with. And so she detected our presence, our vibration, although subconsciously she just took it as a message that was coming from a place which she could sense was benevolent in origin, and she relayed the information to Murray to write down his dreams. And this was our opportunity again to break through, because we knew that we could have a more noticeable presence in the dream state than we could in the wakeful state. And so we then became more active in interacting in Murray's dreams during this time, but Murray did not follow the advice of the clairvoyant and did not write down his dreams. And so this opportunity wasn't utilised. Another 15 years approximately passed, and Murray started writing in a journal twice a day. And he did this for about a year and a half, slightly less than a year and a half. And during this time, on more than one occasion, the channeled information that he received instructed him to channel with voice and not only with writing. Because this was, again, this was us making movements to bring about this relationship that you are watching right now. However, at this time, Murray had self-doubt that he could channel in voice, and so he declined to do it and continued to write until eventually that was something also that he discontinued. And again, we returned to obscurity. However, not entirely. There was now more of a sensing of us at all times. Murray had become more reliant on his extra dimensionality. He had become more believing in the power of his intuition to make decisions and course changes in his life. And so, in doing so, we being present as his guides, we were included more into his presence. So he's channeling himself and also channeling his guides, and that composition of channeling, this channeled state, which is just the wakeful state, not literal channeling as you see now, but just walking about doing the day-to-day things, is still a channeled state.